Hey guys, it's me, Teddy, back with my final presentation for my CEN 3024C Software Development 1 class. Basically, now we're at the end of the course, so now we're presenting the full system itself and walking through the entire process of creating that software. Before we begin, I do want to specify I am dealing with a little sickness right now, so I'm a little short of breath. I'll try to do the best I can. If I cough, I am sorry. Before we begin, everybody knows me on my page, obviously, but I'll do a little introduction. My name is Teddy Jones. I currently am taking software development as part of my BAS degree. And let's get generally talking about the project itself. What this project is a inventory management system for CC's Candy Corner. The purpose of this software is to integrate or to replace an antiquated spreadsheet-based inventory system and replace it with a more robust inventory management system. And this is going to be done for a business that sells jewelry. That's why it's called CC's Candy Corner. The core problem we were trying to solve when we were trying to do this basically was we needed to cut down on time. Getting a lot of the information and managing the inventories via spreadsheets was very much a hassle. So they were looking for a system that could do everything all in one. And I do believe we have successfully created that. We got this process like specifically through consultations with Cece. Move my head, maybe you can actually see her here in the background. This is Cece. She is the candy store owner. She's the one who makes the bracelets, so the system is in fact designed and intended for her and her business in mind. So some of the big questions while I was going over it, over this process for her was like, what are the big challenges you're coming across? Like, what information you kind of track? What are some of the must-have features? What are some features that you would like the program to have? Those are essentially how we define the requirements. From there, I would break them down into what was functional and not functional. So we had a total of 5 functional requirements and then 3 non-functional requirements. I do have, I believe, bear with me here, I do believe I have it pulled up already. Yep, okay, perfect. And as you can see here, those functional requirements are our add bracelet, our view inventory, our update item, our delete item, and then our custom final action, which is FR005, which is to generate a low stock report. This way that the user can track which bracelets have fallen below a certain threshold. And then the functional requirements, the non-functional ones, obviously are ease of use. It needs to be user-friendly. It can't be, just a bunch of tech jargon talking about data pipelines, etc., etc. It needed to be very layman's terms so anybody could pick it up if they purchase the software and they could hit the ground running without too much issue. The next performance of it is it needed to be fast and reliable, specifically in high times or times of high throughput. So like let's say it's a day where they're making like lots and lots and lots and lots of transactions. Well, that could draw on the system, and it could also draw on the computer itself during that time. So we wanted to make sure that the system was somewhat lightweight, that it wouldn't burden the system with any calculations, while also still making those calculations properly. Some of those things include it should be responsive to user actions with little or no delay in their inputs. Database queries and all other data retrieval operations need to be optimized to ensure efficient access to data. We want to make sure that we're following, up-to-date data handling procedures, etc. We want to make sure that the system is designed to minimize downtime and maximize uptime. We do that because it's a lighter weight system. And then we ensure scalability for a larger amount of systems. We baked this portion or this in later sections if we wanted to scale it up. We wanted to make sure we had an ability to even set those balls in motion. We didn't end up actually getting to the scalability portion of it outside of creating a project management plan in which covers this DMS in a hypothetical scenario. Finally, our non-functional requirement is the data security one, and that just basically states that it meets all data security requirements. It's not making anybody's data vulnerable. It's following all measures like the GDPR, etc. Now, we did use a database specifically to manage all of this data at first. We had a version of this program where it had only the ability to read a text file. But since then, we have updated it to, in fact, include a full relational database and make sure that it updates in the information properly. During the deployment phase of it, we created a fat executable JRR file, but we also created a .batch file in which if the fat JRR file does not work, then the bat file should be able to properly run that JR file. It was tested to be, working properly and everything like that. We'll get to that in a second. And now here it says the application would be launched via command line interface. Now keep in mind, this is a very old document. This is when we first started. The application now does not launch via a command line interface, but an actual graphic user interface. We'll get to that in a second. But I want to talk a bit after we got over some of those requirements. I wanted to talk about the program itself now. Just how we implemented it, how it evolved over time, etc. For example, currently right now, this software is using Java with a JDK 17, JavaFX, and SQLite. It is a tiered architecture in which the presentation tier is handled entirely by the JavaFX GUI. The application and logic tiers are the inventory manager and the bracelet classes. So these two here. And then the data tier would be via SQLite. And that's via the JDBC. So how it's changed over time, as you can see before, or as I mentioned before, it started out where we would only input a text file. Now it will be updated now properly to have a graphical user interface. So no more database input via data.txt file. Now it's going to be strictly contained within a .db file. Excuse me. I'm going to open up my little project tree here. And as you can see here, we've got all of our stuff here. We've got our little testers. We've got all of our different classes here. We'll get to that even further, but I wanted to talk about our inventory DB here. As you can see, this is the database itself in which all that data is stored. So no longer the text file. Now we have the database that accesses this data and updates it accordingly. We do that via either an SQL script or via, actually just going in and recreating that database. Excuse me. Now, during the testing portion of this, we did create our inventory manager test. I'm going to go ahead and pull it up right here. And the tests that we focused on during this class specifically were the functionality testing, the usability testing, performance testing, and security testing. Basically, for the functional testing, we verified all the core requirements, so the add, view, update, delete, and low stock report all work properly. There are no critical bugs that prevent any issues. It compiles correctly. The usability testing for that specifically, my beautiful wife Cece over here, She basically got her hands on the program, tested it out, see if it, was functional and elegant in the way that, was sensible to her. Given the fact that it is a software designed for her, I wanted to make sure, for sure, that, that this is a program she would like using. For the performance testing, we did do this inventory management test, but we did provide, I think it was 20 data samples already in which it could, view, edit, delete, remove, etc. We'll go through the functionality and running all these different things in a second, just so we can show that it all works properly. So basically, I lost my train of thought, sorry. The final testing we did was the security testing. Basically, we just wanted to make sure that nobody could break the system. So we have various catches in the software here as an example to not have them be able to put in improper information. So let's say they can't put, you can't put the price of the bracelet being negative. You can't put the stock as being negative because those are based off of real numbers. They have to be positive. Another example of that would be we want to make sure that they're putting the data in the right fields here. So the ID, can't be any duplicate IDs, stuff of that nature. But we also want to make sure that we're putting it so like the fields are the right thing. So, like price isn't in the status isn't quantity, etc. And as you can see here are some of our try catches here. Here's another one. Another one. These are all like updating stuff. So like this example here is it's going to catch them if they are trying to input an ID that is duplicate. Because it pulls up saying, hey, there's this error updating the bracelet that you're trying to do. This ID is already used, and then it gives you the message, please try another ID as an example. And then we have some here. Let's say you're trying to delete a bracelet, but the bracelet's not in our system. Well, you can't delete what's not there, so it's going to give you a kick out saying this bracelet doesn't exist. Another one would be checking ID existence for, it's just verifying within our system that everything is, one-to-one. There's no duplicates. There's nothing that's going to cause like rogue code to like compile wrong, I guess is the word I'm saying. Or like if the computer was trying to pull data from one place was instead pulling it from a place that it shouldn't be. We did verify that all fields are pretty much unique. With the exception being the description. The reason why we don't want to keep the description unique is because there are some bracelets multiple bracelets that could come out for a specific line. For example, currently on CC's Candy Corner website, there are multiple versions for the Stranger Things characters. So like Eddie Munson, Steve, Dustin, Mike, Will, Eleven, etc. So we want to make sure that that one specifically is not unique, because if that one is unique, then we would have to manually put in each one. It's a lot more confusing than it needs to be. So we've kept that one as being non-unique. Excuse me here. Now, like I said, during the deployment of this, we created an executable JRR file. And I do have a copy of that here in my software development one. Let's see if we can get it running here. Oh, is this the one without my bat here? I believe it is. Here it is. Here is our bat. Now, keep in mind this is an older version of it. I do have an updated version of that bat. But as you can see here, this is our old version where it says load data from file. I'm going to go in now into our process. As you can see, that one did successfully complete. So I'm going to go in our project folder here. And I do have right here. This is a installer So I created an exe file for it. As you can see here, there is our JRR file for the Candy Corner app. And our inventory database is here. So all of that is working. We have our custom runtime. Here it is. Sorry about that. We're going to run our launch.bat. First, it's going to ask you for the directory for where the database is located, since this inventory DB is in this folder here. I'm going to go ahead and open this up. Copy this over. Don't mind my... Close that out. Go back in here. There we go. My JR file. Okay. I'm just going to put a backslash in here. The reason being is it does want a full access path to your database. And once you provide it, as you can see, the program here itself does in fact run. And this is from the native standpoint. I'm also going to go through and compile it to show you what it looks like in the IDE. But as you can see here, based off of the batch file and the JRR, it does have our 20 samples that we provided 1 through 20 here. And then it does have Will Byers. We'll go ahead and we're going to use Will Byers for the sake of like doing our functions here just now. But before we do that, I want to make sure that we go ahead and try to show you what it looks like for this here. So we're going to compile from here. And as you can see, it takes us to the exact same screen. We're going to go ahead and put in that path again. And as you can see, look, it loaded the exact same program. Everything's looking good. It even has the Will Byers. Now that we know that the program is running fully as intended, let's go ahead and try to test out some of these functions. As we can see, we have the display bracelets. Let's say there were bracelets that were manually added via an SQLite script or something of that nature. Let's say you wanted to add more of them in there. You can, and then this button here to display is just to pull all of that information back out of the database to pull any updates in. But since we already have Will Byers, let's go ahead and do our remove function first. So what we're going to want to do is every step of the way when it comes to adding, updating, or wanting to make sure that we're confirming with the user that they are aware that this change is about to happen. So we're going to want to remove the bracelet of Will Byers. It gives us the confirmation. And then it says, you are about to permanently delete that. It can't be undone. Do you want to do this? Always good to double check and ask people, because some people can double click sometimes. Some people can triple click sometimes. And this causes issues in the system. So by providing these confirmations each time they need to provide a key function like this, will prevent any data discrepancies, in my opinion, down the line. So we're going to go ahead and remove it. As you can see here, it successfully removed it and it updated our table. So you can no longer see it in here. Let's go ahead and add him back. So 021 was Will Byers. Let's give him a quantity of 15 and a price of $15.99. Okay, now as you can see, it refreshed, updated correctly, and it does show that Will Byers is now here. We show a quantity of 15, the price of $15.99, and it shows in stock. This does show that our database is accurately updating and refreshing as need be. However, I did want to implement the display all bracelets option, just in case, you're working on like the database and you don't want to mess with the program's all good, and you just want to add more bracelets in. So by having that option there, it allows you to do that essentially. So now we're going to do some of our other functions. We're going to go ahead and update Will Byers, but we're going to try to break Will Byers. Okay, so we're going to put in his ID. And you see how the stock is currently 15 and it shows in stock. Okay, well, let's see what happens if we go out of stock and it still says 15. You get another pop-up. This one specifically says that changing it to out of stock is automatically going to set your quantity to 0. And the reason why I put this in here is because logically it makes no sense. If you have 0 bracelets, then there are none in stock. So logically, you would think that when you put it to out of stock, the computer should know to flip it to 0. That's why I implemented that in there. Personally, I didn't think it would be great if somebody could go in and do that. It's a non-intended function. So I wanted to make sure that I got that little bug out of the way that I had noticed. So now it's out of stock. Well, let's happen to put in the quantity back, right? Well, as you can see, it's got quantity and it changed it back into stock. It even says up here, or down here at the screen, or on the screen, excuse me, that the status automatically updated to in stock because of the fact that I changed the quantity. Then we go into will buyers again. Let's go ahead and try to change the number to a negative. So let's say negative 15.99. You get an error message. It says cannot be a valid non-negative number, or it must be a valid non-negative number. So you cannot put negative items in here. Let's go ahead and try it for the other one. Okay, well, it's 15. Let's set it to negative 15. What happens? It does the same thing. Can't be negative. So I did put in the little kickback that, hey, you can't put in negative numbers into, certain fields, stuff of that nature. We can go in if you want, and let's go ahead and change some of these quantities here. Because as you can see here, we have Midnight Sparkle, Forest Whisper, Mystic Pearl, Raindrop Glaze, and Golden Ore, All of those fall below a threshold of 5, right? Why am I talking about a threshold of 5? Well, that's where our generate low stock report comes in. Let's say CC is working in, at a convention or something, and she just sells a whole bunch of bracelets, and now she wants a way to track what she has left in stock and see if anything else falls below a threshold where she may need to make new bracelets. So let's set the threshold to 5. And what should happen here, as you can see down here, I do apologize, it is a little tiny and hard to read down here. You can see that it shows all of the bracelets that fall below this threshold, starting with Golden Aura, Raindrop Glaze, Mystic Pearl, Forest Whisper, and finally, Midnight Sparkle. So as you can see, all of the functions of this program are working as intended. The system is updating as the data gets refreshed. The functionality between deleting, removing, adding, updating, viewing, and generating the low stock report, all of those function as intended. And there's even one last feature I had to talk about. That is none of those things, but I just implemented it in because I thought it'd be smart to do so. Since we are working with money, and sometimes when you work with money, you have to work with different types of currencies. Currently, in the case of CC, she only works in USD, so by default, the system will default to USD when she opens the program. However, let's just say she's curious how much Canadian people will be charged if they purchase our product. Well, now she can switch it over and see the prices for the Canadian dollar. Even more, let's see if she wants to see how much it would cost in China. Now she can see it based off the Chinese yuan or the Japanese yen. So there are more currencies out there that I would love to implement into the system. These are just the 4 most currencies that I've ever had to interact with in my life. So yeah, I figured I'd throw that functionality in there. Finally, before we go here, I just want to give like a short reflection, I guess, of like the whole experience of creating this program. I would say my experience with this program is a mixed bag. It's very rewarding to create a program that I know my personal wife will benefit from using and could help us save money by kicking out companies like Big Cartel who charge outrageous subscription fees to provide the same functionality I'm providing here for free. However, physically, it took a lot out of me to make this program. There were nights where I'd be up for 10 plus hours working on this. And it's not because it's a time management issue. Unfortunately, I got sick several times throughout this process. Right now, currently, as I said before, I am sick right now trying to do this presentation for you guys. So God bless you guys for, sticking with me and dealing with all of this. Some of the major things I think I would say I learned about this, and I think that they were very, very rewarding to see come to fruition, definitely would have been the creation of the GUI in this case. I've never worked with JavaFX before. Heck, prior to this class, I only had one experience creating anything using IntelliJ IDEA, using Java of any kind. So a lot of this stuff, setting it up, there was like a high learning curve. And I do think that was challenging, but anytime I feel that kind of pressure, I truly feel rewarded because I always rise to the occasion. I'm sick. I'm coughing all over video. It's not cool. But I still got the work done. And despite being sick and not feeling the best, to me it's very rewarding to know that I am able to complete this project to its fullest requirements, despite having, not just a physical handicap of being sick, the several times that it happened, but overcoming other physical issues, like I have carpal tunnel in my wrist and stuff like that. So just the entirety of creating this program was very challenging, but because of that, it was so rewarding to me. I don't know if it's because I'm a glutton for pain. I mean, I also joined the United States military, so I went through basic training, so I guess that's just who I am. Stick it out no matter how tough it gets. I would say some of the more programming functions that challenges that I really came across that were giving me issues specifically was trying to create the functionality between the database constantly updating the data like it should, as well as the overall creation of the GUI itself. Taking what I know moving forward, I already have ideas. I've already been cooking them up in my mind and working on them. Specifically, I've cloned and taken what I've done for this, not necessarily the code. I completely redid the code, but the concept of a inventory management system. And I've come up with a solution for local public libraries in my hometown of Tampa, Florida, that I could possibly in the future maybe pitch to them as an alternative to the systems that they're currently using. So I have that idea wrapping around in my mind. I also would like to use a variation of this program maybe as a way for archaeologists and paleontologists and paleobotanists to be able to, when they're out in the field, they have a tablet or whatever, they can, store 2D images in their system, send it back to a local desktop app, maybe through a docking situation when they get back to their lab, and then they could use those 2D images to create a 3D image of what they were taking the pictures of, so you could get better 3D imaging samples of the type of soil that a dinosaur may have been found in, or because sometimes dinosaur bones aren't just flat. Sometimes they could be weirdly angled and stuff like that, and that can cause miscommunication or misunderstandings in biology of stuff. The knowledge of our dinosaurs, the knowledge of dinosaurs is growing, each year. At one point in time, we didn't think that they had feathers. So yeah, those are the two ideas that generated and spinned off from the completion of this. I'm actually working on both of those right now. So maybe, hopefully, in the future, you guys will see videos of me walking through the process of creating those. Maybe I can try to pitch it to like people, stuff of that, and use that for content. Anyways, I just wanted to wrap up this project by saying thank you to my professor for being so willing to work with me on it. There were a lot of times where I missed deliverables on that, and I didn't understand exactly what it was that I was missing. I got very frustrated. So I do appreciate my Professor Evans working with me to like clear those areas of confusion and stuff. Not so. Thank you, Professor, and hopefully I was a good student this semester, despite all of those things. Anywho, that was my inventory management system for CC's Candy Corner. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I hope you guys have a great day.